Howdy, my name is Raymond Arturo Perez, and we're here for another round of Oya Cinema Club. Today's. Oh, wait, do I introduce the movie
Yes,
first? Introduce y'all first.
yes, you decide. It's your choice.
All right, so then today, what we're watching, what we're talking about is A Fish Called Wanda, which premiered in 1988. My choice. It was directed by Charles Crichton. Correct me if I'm wrong. Written by John Cleese, and today with me to talk about películas is Steve, Jason, Dino, Chris, who I just met today, and me, Ray. So to start things off, let's what was everyone's first impressions? Anybody want to go first?
Well, I had actually seen this movie a bunch when I was a kid. So, but again, I had been, I don't know, 25 years, maybe more since I saw it. And it was funny, it was silly back then, Kevin Kline is super silly and stupid. They all are, just like the stuttering. They're all trying to one up each other. So I remembered that stuff. I remember like uh yeah, I'm gonna say Chevy Chase, but it's not Chevy Chase, the Monty Python guy. I remember him being naked and then busting in on him, all that. But then there was some more adult stuff that I totally just kind of went over my head, right? Or certain jokes that watching this time I was like, I loved it. So it's again one of those movies that would always somehow be on cable back home, and I watched it a lot. Just kind of it was on, and there was nothing else to watch. And yeah, I still enjoyed it a lot. There were a lot of fun little things that I didn't pick up as a kid. So it's one of those that you watch as a kid and you think it's one thing, and then when you watch it as an adult, there's all these other kind of levels to it and layers to it. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it this adult watch for the first time.
I mean, I'll go. The reason
Okay.
I picked the film
Oh, okay.
was because um, every like 5 years, I'll be listening to those like Hollywood roundtables or actors on actors or whatever the case is, and every 5 years it comes back into conversation, and I won't hear it just once. Like in that 1 year, I'll hear it like 20 times mentioned, and I'm always like, what is it that like brings this film back into discussion every 5 years? So for me, I was watching it with fresh eyes, and it is pretty funny. It's pretty silly, and I'm not used to watching that in like films as much. And then also like I remember people would always talk about Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and I'm like, I get it. Like, wow. And even John Cleese, when he has his moment in his little undies, I was like, so just everyone's looking great these days. Like, that's amazing. Love that journey for you. And I came out of it really surprised, really surprised by just how strong of a character they create out of Jamie's character. Like, it just felt so modern up until the last 20 minutes of the film, and so badass. So that was kind of my first impressions.
I think I thought one of the crazy things was, man, I don't know how this movie would be rated nowadays. There's so many anti-PC things that happen throughout the movie that I'm like, oh, I can't believe they went there. But then again, back then things were so much more acceptable. Like even the whole stuttering Ken, like nowadays that would not go over as well. And like the mocking of him the entire movie. Kevin Kline pulls it off really well, but there's a whole lot of things. There's a lot of, racist slash anti, homophobic slash, there's so many references in there that I never got as a kid, but I am starting to realize why my parents were probably like, yeah, we're not watching this right now. on top of like the nude scenes and all the sexual connotations. But the movie has a ton of killer lines, like touch his dick, he's dead, like a bunch of lines like that. And there was really, really subtle comedy moves where like Jamie Lee Curtis walks in at the very beginning and she grabs Kevin Kline's butt and he immediately grabs her boob, like out of nowhere. And they're supposed to be brother and sister. So there was just a lot of things in it that I was like, now I clearly understand why my parents were not into me watching this movie as a child.
Oh, just to add on that, also they have like the rule of three, like each character, especially Kline, right? I mean, the whole "don't call me stupid." Like, there's so many things that are just that each character they do so well of like having a payoff, but it's just kind of this constant, right? Of just like throughout, like each one has their own beat, and for the most part, at the very end of the movie or towards the end of the movie, they all have that, like payoff or just the big moment of their what's been leading up with their little jokes and asides or stuff like that. Anyway, sorry, Jason, I totally jumped in on your look.
Why didn't you sidebar Dino? Why did he get the sidebars?
I was too quick.
So I saw this movie, I think back when I was in college. It's been a minute. And I remember really enjoying it the first time I viewed it. And for the same reasons that I enjoyed it this time, it's the same reasons all over again. Kevin Kline is brilliant in it. Like the script is super tightly wound. It's really simplistic and complex all at once. Well, really, I mean, I should say the screenplay, because you can tell this thing is like written for the screen the way it's cut. But it's almost like the movie and it keeps moving along too. It's almost like they take out anything that could possibly be boring. It's action to action to action. Even in the very beginning, the way it kind of cuts might be a little bit confusing. You know what I mean? Because it just sort of like goes straight for the key points of the story. It doesn't really mess around. It's like, we're going to rob a place. Okay, next scene, we're robbing the place. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't play around with stuff too much. And so that sort of keeps you, off balance a little bit too. It's a great movie, man. Like, John Cleese is great. Jamie Lee Curtis, Wawa Weewa, like, everything about this movie is how I remember it. I just didn't necessarily remember why I liked it so much, but I'm reminded. It's a great film. It's a fun movie to watch. I don't really know how this would have went over back in 85, 88?
88.
80 what?
88.
88, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't like, there was mentions to, references that today may not go over so well, but I guess it just depends on the type of movie you're presenting that type of character. I don't know. Maybe not in a comedy. This kind of plays itself as sort of a broad comedy, maybe, or maybe an English comedy. I don't know what group this was for, but yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying there. But yeah, that's my first impression of this thing. Lots of good stuff to talk about this movie.
I guess I'll go ahead because I'm the only one that hasn't given his first impression, right? So first time actually watching this movie in my life ever. Never heard of it, but for some reason when the title was mentioned, I have heard it before. So in conversation, maybe. But it's honestly, it's a movie that I'm happy that I got to watch now instead of before. Because I don't know, me as a kid watching this with some very intense sex scenes, you know what I'm saying? Goofy and everything, but you know what I'm saying? It's like adult humor. And I appreciated the contrast and all those things. Like, this movie had a lot of moments, and that's what I really like about good movies, that it can have several moments. And again, like Raymond said earlier, I think Jamie's character was very strong. It showed a lot of her skills, and I appreciate that. But man, Kevin Kline stole the freaking show. He has some of the best lines in the whole freaking movie and in movie history, in my opinion. And I also can see certain scenes from this movie that have been taken
Mm.
on other movies, like almost exact. Uh, so yeah, it was a fun movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I'll definitely, even though we're not on final thoughts yet, but like I'll definitely watch it again. Like that's how good of a movie I thought it was.
This
I don't
is Snatch and Get Short before those movies even happened. I'd say. Just like the fumbling around and the mess up of.
You're muted, Jason.
I'm what?
Sorry. I was saying that it's one of those
Oh.
movies that it sort of gets around. Gets around to sort of every circle, I think. Everybody's heard of A Fish Called Wanda. You know what I mean? And it's a unique type of film. Like it feels like a piece of theater, like the way the dialogue comes across, but it's definitely written for the screen. It's British actors, it's American actors, and they're both like bringing each other into each other's worlds. And it's a little weird. Like there's like Kevin Kline's character drives an American Cadillac over in England, like a giant Cadillac on the street with all these little European English cars. And it's like, what? Where did he get it from? How did he get it over there? And it's on the American side. He's the only one in the whole movie, just to show you how American these people are. So I don't know. It's written like a British movie, but it feels like it plays better in America. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Do you guys
The
remember?
word. Go on.
No, do you remember at the very beginning of the movie where they're showing the fish swimming around the tank and it has like a sexual like song playing in the back? I'm like, they're objectifying fish right now.
I was thinking the same thing, man. I'm like, this dude loves those fish. It's also weird that dude's relationship to like animals throughout the movie. You know what I mean? Like animals didn't really care for that dude. And then the movie kind of takes that weird turn where this guy comes off as very smart, but then he becomes like the comedic relief, you know?
He was like the Wile E. Coyote to the old lady's Roadrunner.
Yes, exactly. That's a great reference.
Totally. I mean, and as a kid, just that alone is great, you know, but the one character that's all about animal love and just, you know, basically a PETA supporter, and he keeps.
Why did he kill that lady's dog?
Not on purpose. He just. That's the thing. He kept messing up. He was supposed to kill her.
I don't know.
He was trying to kill her.
That was so funny. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. Was him.
She was the witness that they almost ran over, and so she's the one that pointed out the British guy in the lineup. And so the whole idea was, if we kill her, she can't testify, and then there's no, you know, they'll have to let me go. And Kevin Kline was like, I bet you £1 you won't kill the old lady, right? That was the whole thing. And every single time, he kept messing it up and kept getting more and more hurt. And then the freaking shoot, and finally got it after the last dog. And that was so well shot, because before the first one, after the first dog gets taken by the Doberman, she's like having heart problems and like takes the pills. And then you're at the gravesite and you're like, oh shit, gave him a heart attack. And then it pans out. And it's like, oh no, that's her. She buried the dog in the cemetery. So like, again, that's like, I mean, there are 3 dogs. That's, you know, that right there alone, you have the rule of 3 in comedy. Like, it was very well written, you know, by John Cleese for sure.
Wait. Those were 3 dogs, like 3 different dogs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the same dog over and over again.
No, it started with 3 dogs, and then because he didn't want to directly kill this woman, he always found a way to like do something that might kill her, but then it would kill the dog, and it eventually led to the last dog.
Well, he thought the Doberman. Well, that's with the Doberman. He had one of her clothing, so he was making the Doberman smell his clothes and was kind of like attack, attack. So he was wanting the Doberman to just attack her, and the Doberman,
When that
went
Doberman
and
took
attacked.
that lady's dog, that destroyed me. I'm like, this is terrible, dog. And she has to bury this poor thing after it's just been like mauled to death by a Doberman.
I
Oh,
can
that was
imagine.
brutal.
Yeah, yeah. What did PETA say back then, and what would they say now? Right? Like animal cruelty.
He's eating a
Um,
fish.
Yeah.
like yeah, I vaguely remember that, but man, he must have eaten like 20 fish.
Hey, talking about the fish, JP is here.
Oh, hey there, JP.
JP.
That's Wanda.
I muted him because I thought he was reverberating.
Mila Kunis.
Are you doing the Russian words, and that's where you got to, Mila Kunis?
Cranium.
Yeah, I'm the fish, yo. Whoa, whoa, the Russian joke. I'm not gonna lie, I did like that bit. With Kevin Kline, what's the word? Like having like Jamie Lee Curtis having the heart on for all the different languages that she like. It's funny because he's just speaking straight up in gibberish. I mean, they're Italian words, but they mean absolutely nothing in context. So
Parmesan.
that was great. It's a darn shame that Michaela's not here because she is a huge Monty Python fan, and you got two Pythons in this movie, and it was written by John Cleese. So Terry Jones probably hated this movie, but she
Who's the
loved
other
it.
Python in the movie?
What's that?
Who's the other Python in the movie?
Michael Palin. He's the other Python.
Who did he play?
Ken.
He played
Oh.
the guy that stuttered.
Right, of course.
That's so, as someone who knows very little about the Python universe, that's like initially the first thing that I thought of when I was watching this film. Like having no sense of what that even means, it distinctly felt Monty Python-y because of the silly, like outlandish kind of situations and the like having an orgasm when someone speaks a different language, like all those elements really just felt like, oh, this has like this sensibility. And normally I do not gravitate towards those movies, but I thought this did a really great job of also moving the story. Like someone else was mentioning earlier, the movie just always moved the story forward, and sometimes it would highlight all these comedic situations, but it always did feel like it was moving forward constantly, which I thought was awesome. And also, to some degree, was like surprised at the beginning that they kind of just throw us in. Because it's in the 80s, I just thought they were gonna like very clearly tell me exactly what was going on. But I think for like the first 12 to 15 minutes, I was like trying to still like figure out each of the characters' kind of personalities and how they fit in the whole piece, to where when they finally get to the moment of the heist and you know that Jamie's playing everybody, it's like, oh, and everyone's playing each other. I was like, this is so great. Like, and then the story just kept going. So yeah, I was pretty impressed up until the very like last 15, 20 minutes when I was like, even, I mean, excluding all of the kind of problematic elements that this movie has, it did feel very today until they like boxed Jamie Lee into like falling in love with someone when it seemed like she was just like independently her own. And so, yeah, I mean, that was gonna be one of my topics of conversation, was just like the character of Jamie Lee Curtis and all of its facets.
Is it really falling in love though? I thought it was fine. I thought it was it was kind of one of those that, because he even said, I fell in love with you first. I think that was the change, right? Because she was in it for the money, and then she realized differently. I just didn't see it as necessarily her, falling in love, but more so just like, I actually found a nice guy. That was it. I don't know. I guess that to me, I just saw her being strong the whole way through,
Yeah.
and then just like, oh, what a nice guy. I could have had something there, type of thing, type of
Yeah.
moment, right? That's how I mean, again, that's how I saw it. I didn't think they did her wrong.
I just think this is a great work of fiction when someone like Jamie Lee Curtis would even give the time of day to someone like John Cleese. So yeah, that was
I don't know, man. I could see
I,
John Cleese. I could see John Cleese getting lots of attention. To be honest
that's
with
got
you,
it going on. Oh my god.
like
He
seriously, like
he
when John Cleese, I'm not going to even hold you up. When John Cleese took his shirt off, I was like, oh no, John Cleese was the man. He was getting it in.
Yeah, that bald spot had me fooled because fast forward when
it
Yep.
wasn't bald down there, because yeah,
whoa,
that's
whoa,
who I was.
whoa, whoa.
no, he was not. And he said, I'm here and all this goodness. And he danced. I was just like feeling all of this confidence and personality. And I was like, oh, John knows what's going on. He has no trouble.
Well, of
Yeah,
course
I
he
was
had
thinking
no
the same
trouble.
thing.
He wrote it.
Well,
He,
yeah,
he
that's a good
wrote it
point.
so that he and his friends could have a moment to mac with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I mean, that's really smart. You're right. He's like, I have to try to woo Jamie Lee Curtis. He even looks kind of dashing when he's showing up with the champagne. Like he did have confidence all of a sudden, coming back. Like, oh, I'm fulfilling this woman's needs. Coming
he,
back, and I'm bringing, you know,
he turned it
I'm
on.
bringing exactly what she asked for, her favorite. She said. So yeah, that was a nice turn too, because his whole life is super dull before that. So he really goes on a ride as a character. That's written very well too. I mean, he wrote it for himself, but it's still good.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they're showing Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline, and they're about to have sex, and they're tearing off their clothes, and then they show like John Cleese having trouble struggling out of his own shirt, with his wife, and like how that was totally different. And then you get to that like Kevin Kline O-face. Remember the part where he's like pounding on the bed, and then he's like, makes that face. That was one of my favorite
That as
parts
a
of the
kid,
movie.
it goes right over there. It's like,
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I kind of figured the sex, but what is it, right? Just like,
I mean,
oh,
Jamie Lee
that's
Curtis had
just
it going on. That's
yeah.
why he was so jealous. He became very possessive after they had sex, didn't he?
The blowing of the boot is just like so.
No. Everything that had to do with any sort of asphyxiation, breathing, smelling. Like, no, come back to the mundane, separate British beds.
Oh man, he's got the samurai sword with karate mix. So, like, none of it was like ever actually what it was. Oh man.
He's got the stethoscope spying. Did you guys know that?
Oh, I missed that.
Out the window.
I missed that part.
He was like in the house, and they were fooling around for the first time, and Kevin Kline was outside the window, and he's looking in, and he's got a stethoscope listening through the window.
Somehow I thought it was microscope. Yeah, I got confused. My medical tools.
So what were some of y'all's other favorite moments in the film?
Oh, I really liked the ending credits.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'll give the movie this, because I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why, because like I would think that this type of goofy humor would be the type of thing that I would like and I would dig. But I think I was getting the same vibes that Women of on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown was giving me. So I didn't fully fall in love with this movie, but if I did have a
That means
favorite
it felt
scene,
like a foreign film for PJ.
so if I
England
were to pick,
England is a foreign country, right?
yeah,
So I
yes, it
mean,
is.
does this
It's across the pond, as they say. It's across the pond. Wisha. My favorite scene, and this is, in my opinion, the most kind of Python-esque scene, is when Calvin Klein is telling, no, Calvin Klein. Oh my God, you gotta take your mom to the dance, Marty. It's the only way, Marty. Um, my favorite scene is when Kevin Kline tells John Cleese to apologize, and he's like, "I will absolutely not," and he's just hanging him upside down the window. There's a crowd forming in a parking lot, bearing
What a
witness to
great
this,
cut.
and
What a great scene.
it's so good, and it's
It's
acted
fantastic.
straight. It's brilliant.
It got me the first time. It got me again this time.
Lethal Weapon did that with John Pesci, maybe. I'm sure. I can't tell when that would be the first time where it looks like it's right side up, but when you pull out, it's actually the other side. So I don't know if comedically this might have been the first time for that or not.
I've never seen it in
There's
any other film like that. I thought he was
there's
actually upright because of the way they cut back to
yeah.
him. It was brilliant.
There's a lot of things kind of like are a first, like because that one I'm like, man, I think that might be. I've seen it a few other times since then. But the whole jail sequence when they go and touch, all I can think of is Arrested Developing. No touching with hugging in the, in the prison. That's all I can think of. No touching. Um, so there's a lot of those kind of bits. Uh, I like I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the dog bits are great. I mean, the Kline bit of him then trying to actually apologize, but he just keeps messing it up even more. Of like thinking it's actual robber beating him up, then like finally takes his gun and is just trying to apologize. Like I don't know. There's so many great bits that keep piling up. I mean, like you said about the American car, he keeps swerving and making other people crash. Like that's it's not like he never learns. He's one of those characters that never learns. He's one of those characters kind of in an improv show that you put him in situations and he's going to do the same damn thing over and over again. The whole stupid thing, right? Like, oh, don't call me, like, just like, it was, I don't know, it's so, I guess that's your Marty McFly thing was chicken? Like, oh, nobody calls me chicken. That was his Marty McFly chicken bit of the nobody calls me stupid thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I do think that like in those first like 15-20 minutes of the film, they do such a great job of like creating the character for everybody. Like the guy who loves animals no matter what, and like this guy who no matter what you say, you can't call him stupid. So that when it comes in, you're just like immediately clued in on what the situation is, and you can just play it out. And I think it's just so well done.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally
show.
agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, it must have been fun for John Cleese to write some of those lines. I wrote down the one part where he's tearing them apart and he's like, "You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed English giant twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead asshole." He just
Yeah,
keeps
those were
going.
great.
It was great. And he's like, "You're a vulgarian."
He did that in
Yeah.
3 as well, didn't he?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, it escalates to where they make fun of Margaret Thatcher. The one that I'm like, oh boy, I don't know how they would take it now. I mean, but actually then, because it was closer, the whole Vietnam War thing of like, North,
Yeah.
I was just like, oh shit. But it makes sense because they just won out up in them. It was like, you be speaking German.
You said the whole
be
what?
Vietnam War.
The Mouth War?
Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam War.
Yeah.
What did he
The
say
whole
about the
bit.
Vietnam War?
So Kevin Kline is just going off on John Cleese on like, if it weren't for the U.S., you
Oh,
guys
right.
be
Yeah. Okay, I
speaking
remember.
German, and then
No, I remember.
you guys,
Yeah.
yeah, you'd be the furthest state of Russia, and then he goes like, well, what about oh yeah, he's like, we've never lost, and he's like North Vietnam, and it's like it was a tie.
He does an American accent. John
That
Cleese.
was
Yeah.
great. I would love to
Oh,
see John Cleese do more of that. To be honest, that'd be pretty solid.
And in terms of conflict too, I love that the movie goes like it takes it all the way, like when they're swallowing the fish, like they swallow every fish. We've talked about it now many times, but the dog thing, like each way the dog dies, it's so excruciating, but also like I appreciate that it like goes all the way there. And then the other thing was at the end, like I never know if who's the guy who loves the animals? Ken. Like I never know if Ken's actually gonna get revenge and if we're gonna see it on camera, but like we do. Like, the bulldozing thing is actually coming, and I'm oh my God,
Revenge.
we're not getting away from this. And so I was just always like very kind of impressed. I was like, kudos to y'all.
and he got rid of the stutter from just like anger and all that.
That was a very also a very Python-esque type joke. Just
Oh, yeah.
that little moment.
Even I put the name in the name. That's my name tonight. It says Mr. Manfred Jendenson, and he says it, but he does it like so unclear. And then the wife remembers the name later on, and I was like,
Yes.
"Yeah, that's perfect. That is so much."
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was so well written.
Were there any other aspects of the film that really stood out to y'all?
I like how. First off, I think it was great casting. I really kind of like his wife as an actress too, John Cleese's wife.
Oh my
Maybe
God!
she-
And the daughter.
It is.
Yeah, the daughter's pretty interesting too, actually. Like the daughter has a lot of like. Oh, that's his real daughter?
That's John Cleese's real daughter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I thought she
Oh.
had some pretty good acting moments in there too. Like she was kind of like had her own little life going on. I love like the way that she went to answer the phone all fast, like a kid would. Like maybe it's somebody for me, maybe it's one of my friends, and then no, it's not. Like that's such a great little moment right there.
I'm just glad that one, I'm glad that the daughter didn't have too much screen time, but I'm also glad that her character wasn't too one note either. Because I'm not gonna lie, the first thing that we saw her in, I thought I was like, oh man, this is gonna be like a Veruca Salt type parody thing going on. It's like you don't get me what I want, mommy.
I mean, I felt so bad for John Cleese. Just the wife's like, he's finally like, oh, I won that case. It's like, this is my only free time I've had all day. She was explaining how she hadn't done shit, and then he goes, yeah, oh.
He was a star for affection, man.
Yeah. I guess spoiler alert for the folks watching. I honestly thought for sure that they were gonna kill off her character. I thought John Cleese was gonna accidentally like murder her, and that was gonna be one of those like crazy things that happens in the movie. So, but I'm glad they didn't do that. Like it wasn't. They didn't need that sort of darkness, but I thought it was gonna happen.
I did. Now that we're talking about the wife and the daughter, oh my God, that scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is there and trying not to get discovered, and the brother comes in to say, that whole thing, I was like, this is like, that's when like the film kind of had me wrapped around its finger. I was just like, this is so amazing. I can't even guess how the scene's gonna play out, and I feel like I don't experience those kinds of moments as much when I'm watching films because I'm always like a little bit ahead. But in that one, I was just like so present, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this, and I'm here for all of this.
I also think every time I think a little bit more, there's more like Kevin Kline stuff. For instance, when Jimmy Lee's with John Cleese, and she's kind of dogging him, and is like, he thought your daughter is named Portia. Well, he couldn't really get why it was, named after. And like everything is just like one after another. And then when she finally confronts him, is like, you know, Buddhism is not this, and this is not this, and blah blah blah. Because just like everything with him, everyone has all their moments on Kevin Kline, and I everything builds really well in this movie. Like again, it just shows how well written it is, and how rounded out the characters were to play with in that kind of world.
I wonder how much was ad-libbed, if any, you know what I mean? Clearly there was some that was ad-libbed, like the scene, right, what you were just talking about, when Kevin Kline's and he's like, if he touches dick, he dies. And then he jumps out from behind the door while she's making out with him and starts like pointing at it, like, don't touch his dick.
It's so great. All that hiding in the house, all those bits and gags, it's so great. It raises the tension. You don't know how they're going to get out of it, or if they're going to get discovered. It's so great.
Yeah, there were a few moments where I do feel like in the editing room they went for a joke, or they went for a moment in lieu of story, when the barrister is dancing for Jamie Lee. We do exit that scene without really figuring out how Jamie leaves that scene, or how her role in the whole situation plays out. And then the other moment that kind of stuck out to me too was, well, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it was the whole, like, her relationship with the barrister at the very end, like being on the same side, whether that's romantic or just an alliance or whatever. Like, I don't think it fully hit me emotionally. Like, I don't think it was fully developed, but I bought into it. And then the movie does set up that, like, Jamie's playing everybody, but it really does end up moving to just the brother and the barrister. But there was a moment up until like maybe midpoint of the film where it was them two and the old dude in the jail and Ken. And so I was like, wow, this is like a lot of lifting, like story wise, like how are you gonna do it? But then they just kind of what's that word where you siloed. They kind of siloed Ken into that whole "I'm gonna murder the old lady" bit, which to me was like, I'm here for the jokes. I don't even really care, but I did, as the story goes, I was like, oh, like my little spidey sense went off a few times.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Mutual.
Definitely the part you're talking about with her upstairs when he's naked. I was like, how did she get out of there? I agree with that totally.
We have the courtroom. We even haven't talked about just like the chaos of the courtroom, just like, and the wives out there watch. It's just, it has so many great ups and downs throughout the movie. Just a fun movie. It's an overall fun movie. It's one of those, I don't think you think it's going to be as good as it is, but again, I think it's a great example of just a well-written movie, right? An idea to, if it's well-written and your characters are well-written, then it should be easier for the actors to just take over and, bring stuff to the table.
So, do you guys have any interesting facts about the movie, or things that may have happened when they were shooting or prepping the movie, or any little fun, tidbits of movie?
If one of those facts isn't Kevin Kline actually eating those damn fish, I ain't interested.
So I did look.
I have a post-movie fact. They kind of did a soft, I don't know, anyone know, like, when it's the same actors and they meet up together for another movie later, is that like a soft sequel ish kind of thing, which is good. I don't. It's not to this level, but it's wacky as well. And I remember watching it as a kid as well, and it was silly and goofy, and it took place. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, this movie is on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list.
And that much
and is
closer.
the other one also on that list?
The other one?
That's Fierce Animal.
Fierce Animal? What's that?
It's like
sorry, Fierce Creatures. Fierce Creatures. It's all of them, and they were at some point or another involved in the making of a zoo, and they're trying to get funds, and they're kind of also they're also shysters, and trying to get one over another into like, do we get a real animal? Are we doing it more like a Disneyland? Like, are we gonna have rides? How can we get more? We're losing money, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I doubt it's on that list, but it is I think a fun movie as well.
outside of Monty Python too, because so I was talking to my roommate. My roommate's obsessed with this film, and he did mention this soft sequel-ish thing that they did where they came back, like 10 years later or something. And that did kind of also, when I was first watching the film, reminded me of like those Christopher Guest movies, just because like the ensemble came back and did something else.
Yeah.
And there's something silly about Christopher Guest movies, and each character having kind of their own thing at the very beginning. But I haven't seen it. I'm gonna watch it though, because I really enjoyed that chemistry.
What was the other film?
Fierce Creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Also, Chris was gonna say something, and Dino rudely interrupted him.
Again,
it's all
sorry.
good. It's all good.
I blame it on Paraguayan internet, that I can't. I don't know what's going on your side, so I'm just talking.
Dude, he's digging up. Yeah. So it reminds me of Clue, and that's one of my favorite movies as a kid. There's just something about Clue. All the interaction, again, like action, and the banter. Like, to me, the banter is amazing in the movie Clue, and it definitely had a feel of that. Clue's a little different, but this movie had a little bit of like the 80s music in the background. The score was like, I don't know if you noticed the score as much, but it definitely had like that 80s, like a little bit of like Miami Vice every once in a while we were driving around in the cars. But but to me, Clue 100%, it had a little bit of feel of Clue, just the interaction and the play between the characters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I haven't watched Clue in a while.
It's a good movie.
Flames on the side of my face.
I had to stop from screaming.
Well, unless anybody else has any other topics of conversation, I'm going to move to final thoughts. Steve?
Let's do it. Let's move on to the final thoughts.
I can't.
The
What?
only thing I was gonna ask was, I thought Chris had the fact if Kevin Kline ate fish.
No, I didn't have that. One fact I did have was that apparently Michael Palin's, I read a couple things beforehand, and I did that last week too, just to see what interesting. And one of them was that Michael Palin's dad actually had a stutter. So I don't think it was as serious. But his own real father had a stutter. And one other thing we didn't talk about is the part where he's trying to say the hotel and how long they drug that scene out, the Cathcart or whatever it was. And he's like, cut. And I was like, man, just give this guy a pen. Give this guy a pen. And he finally does it, like that was so painful to go through it, But yeah, I thought that was.
And it shows John Cleese being really nice, right? Take your time. We're not in a hurry. Take your time. Right.
That was, I just love that. I thought that was really interesting. There's that, and then that whole scene, they really went for it with that. I felt like they just kept going.
Kind of
Indubitably.
And just with the stutter, I guess last thing, the fact that he says Wanda, without a stutter, the whole thing, that just like it adds the power of Wanda just with everything and how she's kind of this enchantress, right?
For
Almost,
sure.
I guess, since it's a fish, she's a mermaid, if you want to say, luring sailors to crash into the rocks. Um, yeah, I got vibes also of there's something about Mary in it, just like so. It had a lot of good stuff. But I guess I'll go into my final thoughts really quick. Liked it as a kid, and as an adult, I think I like it even more because I get more jokes, I get more out of it. That as a kid, just especially in Paraguay. Oh, I watched it here. I watched it here in Paraguay, where I'm right now. And so, yeah, I enjoy the movie. It's a movie that I would watch again, at some point or another, if other people want to watch it and stuff like that. And I would recommend it to all my friends, family, neighbors, enemies, frenemies, everyone. So, yeah, that's my final thoughts. And I'm going to mute myself so I can no longer interrupt Chris.
Pretty
Oh
pretty
no!
generous.
We
Pretty generous
need
to your.
sidebars.
But what will we do with all the sidebars? What was I gonna say? Oh, you're very generous to your enemies. That's what I was gonna say. To give them this movie of all things, you're gonna give them a good time. So, very, very Christian man, I suppose. I'll go into my final thoughts since this thing is in my face. Final thought on this film is it's great. I love it. It's a fantastic movie, man, and it's one of those movies where I don't know. It's like I feel like it's probably one I should give a few more looks to now that I'm thinking about it because there's just not very many other comedies quite like this with its beats and timings. It's very unique to, what John Cleese was trying to do. Um, I don't know who directed this thing. Did we even talk about the direction of the film? I don't know. Nobody has that information off the top of their heads, but that's okay.
Charles,
I think Ray said Craig Crichton at the beginning, something like that.
Oh,
Charles Crichton.
okay.
Charles
Charles Crichton.
The guy who made
Crichton.
Jurassic Park?
Charles Crichton. Charles Crichton.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm looking here. I don't think I've seen very many of his movies. Actually, he made a lot of old movies, like a lot of movies from real big in the '50s, and then he takes a break, a huge 30-year gap in between making films, and he makes A Fish Called Wanda. That's what it looks like. 29-year gap between.
Well,
know what?
I think he invested into cryptocurrencies back then, and they just didn't really pick up.
I mean, who knows
So
what
he
that
had to
guy was
get
doing?
back to work.
He could have been in the theater. He could have been screenwriting. That guy could have been off in India going on adventures with a trusty sidekick or something. You never know.
All that man needed to hear from John Cleese was Jamie Lee Curtis, and that was it.
I'm back, baby.
I would end a 3-decade break for that. Oh, baby.
Do you
Yeah, I would
speak
agree with that.
Italian?
Exactly. Jamie Lee was bringing worlds together at that time. So yeah, I would recommend this to any and everyone that's not like a child, I guess. I think once someone gets into college, I'm like, hey man, you need to already have seen A Fish Called Wanda. So go do yourself a favor and enjoy that. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's my final thought.
I'll go. So final thought. This movie is super fun, super great. I can't believe that I haven't seen this movie before, and it was a great film, and it holds up still up to this day. It's a movie that I could watch several times, and I will get new things out of it, and I would like the little hijinks and things that I missed that other people pointed out here. My absolute favorite character was Kevin Kline. He was super silly, and I love silly people. Um, and one of my favorite gags that I think Austin Powers might have got it from here was when he's like stuck in the cement and he's coming with a big explosion thing. I like that part, and also the fact that even through going through that, he still manages to climb the airplane just to see, is she touching his dick?
So ridiculous.
So final thought, yeah, I would recommend it to people above age.
I'll give my first and my final thoughts since I came in late. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like the movie. I guess I just don't like silly comedies, which is stupid. It kind of reminds me of John Cleese in Monty Python, where he'll just interrupt a sketch. He says, "Nope, stop it! It's too silly, too silly." I was kind of waiting for that moment for this movie, but it kind of made up with watching it with Michaela because, oh my god, she was in stitches the entire time. She absolutely loved the movie. I kind of wish that I was experiencing what she was experiencing. But I mean, it does have its really great moments. And oh my God, Jamie Lee! Oh, oh boy, I fell in love again. I want to be a much older man to fall in love again. Oh my gosh, like her charisma, her chops, her beauty. Oh my god, so great. And I can't get over Kevin Kline's oral asphyxiations, and I don't want to think about it. But oh, he's so hilarious as well, and it's a very smart script, like joke wise. Like it's a smart script. I didn't really dig the story. That's the only issue that I had with it. But all in all, I'm glad that we got to see it. I don't know how, like when you said it was like on the top 100 of some list before you die, like really? Like I don't know. I guess I'm just a nutso. Smart script, great performances. Just not a. I didn't like the story. Was all. Wasn't for me.
That's the top 1,001 movies before you die list. Time magazine.
Who has time to watch that many movies?
The critic people at Time magazine.
Well, we're getting
What number
pretty
episode is
close.
this?
We're what? Yeah, aren't
We're
we at
at
about 100? So
we're at 92, baby. Yeah, 92.
so a movie a week. Where are we at? We'll get to 1001 before we die, right?
Oh, I mean, I don't know about your guys'
Right?
heart,
Are we
but
gonna get to 1001 before we die, guys? Right?
Well, that depends on if we count a Havoc in the top 1,000.
uh,
I now have to watch this movie because both.
no,
these
no, you
people-
don't. No, you don't.
Please don't. I don't like. I'm like cool with my enemies watching this. I don't want even my enemies to watch Havoc. That's how
As
bad it is.
much as I hated the intimacy that Kevin was giving in this movie, I'd watch that over and over again versus the weird moments with Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, I'm glad Anne Hathaway's career was able to somehow sidestep that movie. She must have had something else good come out like immediately after. Because that's the
All
kind
of
of thing
those
that can just
guys in
derail
that.
all your hard work in life.
Princess
All of those
Diaries
guys.
2.
Yeah, maybe that was the one where she was able to redeem herself and show that she could still, exactly bring it in. Okay, well, I'm excited to everybody get their final thought, their final impression of the film. So I'm excited because I had a question for Steve. Steve, what do you got for us next week?
Next week, oh my God. I am so glad that you asked me because it's my turn.
Oh,
What?
Whoa! Woo! Bow, bow, bow,
Yes.
bow.
And we are no longer anymore on the category of you pick two movies, we vote, and we'll make it happen. Now we've been doing a behind the scenes bracket and we've been voting for categories. And guess which one won?
Which one?
I know. I saw it.
If it isn't movies made prior to 1912, I officially resign and quit from this mediocre group if we don't see
One of
movies.
the maybe 18 films made before
You know,
1912.
I believe the one that won is they are movies that have the word fish in the title.
So I know what it is, and I know what it is because I picked it, and you guys voted on it. Cult classics.
Oh,
Wait, I submitted that too. I submitted cult classics as well.
We double banged them this time.
should we bring our own Kool-Aid to the next review?
I don't know what that means, but why not?
If you like. So since we are going cold classics, I was between
I got it.
Quentin
Thank you, Dino.
Tarantino films. And
Okay.
I was going to pick Kill Bill, but I decided no, it won't be Kill Bill.
But is Kill Bill a cult classic?
Yeah, I don't think that one is, but go on.
Apparently on IMDb it is. But
Okay.
I picked Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen it.
I prefer my fiction with non-pulp. Thank you very much.
So, this is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh.
Is it?
It is. This is my favorite film.
I love
I
that
feel
someone
like you
hasn't
say that
seen
every
it. That's
week.
going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this thing again. I've got a good edition on DVD too.
I just
What
vaguely
did
know
you say, Chris?
there's Mason Balls.
I said I love the fact that he said he never saw it. That's going to be interesting to have.
I
that
know,
mix.
right? That. Can we do that
first
thing?
time. And
I heard
you're
that
a
this
writer.
was the.
You're a
I heard-
writer, Raymond. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I heard that the actor, the famous actor Phil Lamar, he submitted his first headshot for this movie, so it's gonna be great watching it again.
Yeah.
So there we go. For El Dondino, Mr. Manfred Jensen, Chris, by Raymond Arturo, Jason Echols, Just JP, the Fish Wanda, and me, Steve Des TV. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.